Hi, in this video you are going to learn access modifiers in Java. What is access modifier, access modifiers and their summary and examples. So what is access modifier? The access modifiers in Java specifies the accessibility or scope of a field, method, constructor or a class, and we can change the access of the levels of the fields and constructor methods and the class by applying the access modifier on top of it. So in summary, there are four types of access modifier: private, default, protected and public. So private access modifier can be accessible only within the class. Outside class, within package or outside package, it cannot be accessible. For default, it can be accessible within class, within the same package, but outside package it cannot be accessible. For protected, it can be accessible within class, within the same package and outside the package if it is extended the sub, or it is a subclass like that, then it can be accessible. But if it is outside package but not subclass, we cannot access. And for public, we can access public from anywhere. So let's say this is one class test1 where for variable field and the method we have created four type of variable. Let's say private variable, protected variable, private variable, public variable and default with different modifier and corresponding method: private, protected, public and default. Actually for default we do not need to write anything, just we need to define the class type and the variable. No need to provide the access modifier. So now if we want to access it within the class, all modifiers is accessible: private, protected, public, default, everything, field and also the corresponding method. Now test11 is the class that is in the same package, and but it is not extending the test1. So in this particular case, it can, we can, if we check it, so the default variable, protected variable and public variable can be accessible, but the API like default method, protected API and public, it can be accessible, but we cannot able to access the private, but we can able to access the protected like that. So same thing, like if I in a different package, let's say test2. So in test2, if I create a method, let's say like that, just for testing, from here we can able to access this dot protected and public. We cannot able to access the default one, so only protected and public API and the corresponding field variable we can access from here. Okay, and if like let's say test3 is a particular class that is not extending test1 and it is outside this particular package p1, from here we cannot access protected, public or default. We can only access the, or we cannot access protected, private and default. We can only access the public variable and public API, public method. So this is the scope of Java. Now same actually applicable for, let's say, class also. If I, let's say this particular class, if I make it first, let's say this class, I can able to access from outside this package. If I want to create it, test11, okay, now it can be accessible. But if I make it like this, so it will give you compiler error because it is not accessible, it is in default scope. Now same thing can be accessible from test1. So if I want to create a class of test11 here, so I can able to access it. Okay, so and same thing for constructor. Let's say just create back to the previous one. Now if I have a constructor here for test1, let's say I have a constructor of, so this is public by default. I can create multiple constructor with different argument. Let's say first it is a public constructor, then it can be accessible from anywhere. If the constructor is protected, then if I want to create the class outside the package. Let's say test1 t equal new test1. This is outside package and also it is not subclass. Then so we cannot access it. Okay. For test2 we can access because it is a subclass. We can access from the subclass because it is protected. Sorry. We can access the, let's say, constructor from here. Like this. Okay. But we cannot create directly the class like that. Okay. Because it is protected, we cannot create, or we can directly access, but from constructor of the subclass we can access the protected constructor of the parent class. Okay. And if the constructor is default scope, let's say here if I make it, if I make it private, then it cannot be accessible from anywhere, like inside the same package also in the subclass also it cannot be accessible. And if the constructor is default, let's say like this, then it can only be accessible from here, from within the same package, but it cannot be accessible from the extended class in the different package. Okay. So overall you just need to remember the summary of it. You can have this table only. So this is all. Okay, thanks.